Hello and welcome to The Power of Journaling, and this is using your journal to power your blog. So let's start with who am I? So I'm Dale, and I do a couple of things. So I work with a writing therapy called Writing to Heal. I do book mentoring as part of the Healing Book Project. I'm also an author of many books that you can see over there. I run the Soul Writers Academy, which is all about EBOOKS, courses, programs and things like that. And I live in the most beautiful and peaceful place in Spain, in the hills, with my doggies. Sadly, there's only two, so two at the back. Ferdy dog left me a couple of years ago now, but I like to include him in my presentations. So these are just a small selection of some of the books that I have written. As you can tell, I like to write a lot. Hence, I have a blog and I write blogs every single week. And all of my blogs, not all of them, most of my blogs come from personal experience. So there's always something going on in the world or in my life that enables me to get that inspiration to write in my journal and then transfer that to my blog. So let's take a look at what journaling is. So journaling, and I'm sure you have all seen a journal. I like writing in an A5 journal. I very much like the bullet journals because they've got little dots in, although my writing goes all over the place. But it's just a written record of your thoughts, feelings, experiences, stories, ideas, observations on life. And what I love about journaling is it gives you lots of clarity, it's very cathartic, and it builds your confidence. It's healing, it's transformational, and I use my journal not only for healing, but as the basis for a blog and books. But you might be thinking, perhaps there's lots of other different kinds of journals that you'd like to keep. Very popular is gratitude journals. You might have something for planning or your dreams and goals and food, having a food, mood, sleep, and can't think of what the other thing is. You might want to emotions. Journal is a really good idea if you're trying to link food to your mood. Ideas and creativity. For me, that's for books, blogs, ebooks, courses and things like that. Healing is a big one for me. You might keep a journal in your bag or perhaps just have a little notepad and keep notes during the day. And then there's all your kind of day-to-day stuff that you just need to get out. But the first thing is you might be feeling a little bit of resistance. So we need to know why you want to journal, because let's face it, if you don't want to do it and you don't see any benefits, then you're not going to do it. It doesn't matter how many times someone's going to say to you, do you know, you should journal. It's like, yeah, so if you can't find that big enough why, you're not going to do it. So you need to think about why now, what you think it's going to help you achieve, and how you're going to feel once you've got all of that stuff out. Now, I love journaling because it's about freely expressing myself. I can write anything in my journal. Now, I don't live with anybody, but even when I did, I thought, well, do you know what? If you open my journal and I've written something about you, hard luck. You shouldn't go snooping. But you can gain perspective on life. And through that reflection, you can make great meaning, get lots of ahas. You can see lessons and challenges and gifts in life. And it really does help you to create change. And it's really transformational. You know, we live in an era where people are stressed to the max. So writing in a journal is going to really help you to get it out. It's going to help you to heal. Now, my big thing is about healing and finding inner peace. So it does all of those things. That letting go. You know, when you can start to see, all the kind of unhelpful things that you say to yourself, the self-talk, you can learn to let all of that stuff go. And also when you start to gain perspective and perhaps you see things from other people's point of view, you just let things go. And it's about also connecting to that inner wisdom. and especially if we want some ideas for blogs and courses and other projects you might be working on, it's that sparking that creativity. And for me, it makes me take action, because when I see stuff, it's like, yes, I better get on with it. And I use it as a planner as well. I have a journal always by the side of my desk, and in the morning I plan stuff out, but I also in my journal use it to plan things that I know need to be done. It lets us see unconscious patterns of behaviour, because when you reflect in your journal and you can see, oh yeah, I've done that again, you're going to start to see it. And if you're resisting something, so we're talking about blogging, let's say you're resisting writing a blog, exploring there, you will see these patterns and pictures. So it's very healing, and because it's healing for you, it'll be healing for other people when you come to reflect and write those blogs out. There's something very, very powerful about starting to write and then just losing yourself with your muse and just letting that stuff come out. You build a different kind of relationship with yourself. Now, the most important relationship you can have in the world, according to everybody, is yourself. According to my dogs, they think they're the most important, and they are. But joking aside, the most important relationship that you can have, and that's according to me and lots of experts, is with yourself. And what I find with journaling is I have learned to trust myself and my intuition a lot more because of what comes out through my writing. I've definitely found self-love, self-worth, more confidence. I've connected very, very deeply with my values, and I found that really, really important, inner peace and contentment. So when we think about some of the benefits of journaling, you get to know who you are, what you want to create in the world, what is that, where you're going, who you are, and things that need to change. You'll get all that inspiration, those ideas, that creativity coming up, and you can use that in blogs, books, posts, web copy, in creating new products, all kinds of things. So for me, journaling has saved my life. And that sounds a little bit dramatic, but truly it has. Even long before I left this horrible relationship, I've been journaling for years, and truly, truly, hand on heart, it saved my life. But if I think about the last 7 or 8 years, I left a horrible relationship. I jumped in our motorhome, put my 2 dogs in, drove to a new country and to a new life in a run-down old house. I fell apart. I think the house had already fallen apart, but I learned very much to love myself. And that was really important because I had suppressed my emotions. So I ended up with lots of illnesses. I then fractured, my spine fractured, and I realised that at that point that my life had fractured. And so my journal, I spent almost 18 months off work. I was in a lot of pain, and there was a lot of other complications. And my journal was a place to discover things and to scream at and to make sense of what on earth was going on. So I healed my spine, I healed all the other underlying conditions, and my journal helped me to do that. And then we discovered something called MGUS. I won't go into what it is, but it's a precancerous blood condition. Most people die with it than from it, but it does turn into a blood cancer. And on discovery of that, what I found, the way that my journal supported me was, instead of getting lost in this world of there's no conventional cure, because apparently it's all incurable, is how about I just live my best life? And so my journal supports me to live my best life. So writing to heal, this methodology that I have designed, is about journaling and reflecting, about gratitudes and affirmation, mandalas and some strange doodles that I do. Energy work, which is, yes, the energy work, but it's also about journaling through the chakras, those energy points, visualization, and creating visualization techniques in my journal and then visualizing things. uncovering stories, and my creativity is through the roof. So I just want to invite you to pause for a moment and think about what you want to write about. Now, the best way to do this, instead of sitting there going, oh, do you know what, I've got no idea, we're going to do a little mind map. So just draw a circle and write the first word that comes in there. It doesn't matter what it is, because you can review this later. So write a word, whatever that word is, and then 5 other words, whatever comes into your head. And it really, really doesn't matter. Now, I do this 5-word mind map for all sorts of things. And when you've done those words, you need to reflect. And when you come back, look at them. And this will go and it will make that strange noise, by the way. And it will make you'll be able to make sense of it. So whenever you're stuck, this little mind map technique is a great way of discovering stuff. It's really, really powerful. So have a go at that. So I always say to people, get a journal for the journey. And what I mean is you've got to start somewhere. I have loads of journals, and I have particular brands that I love. I have them all over the place. But it's really, really important that you get something that you really want to write in. So if you go down the corner shop and you buy yourself a scrappy thing that perhaps a school kid would use, you may not love it enough to really pour your heart into it. But I do have another use for something like that. So if you do buy those thin, cheap things, you can scribble, and then chuck them on the fire. Let the energy go. But when I say it doesn't matter, you need to have something that you do truly want to write in. Find something that you love. I use a brand called Stationery Island, and I also use the ones that are the, I think they're official bullet journals, but I can't think of the name, begins with L. And your journal, you want to feel safe when you're journaling. Now you can create software journals. Not quite the same, because there's some science that talks about what happens when we connect the pen to the paper and our brain. So I lose myself when I'm handwriting. But your blog could become your journal. So for me, how do you journal? Do you know what? There's no rules. You do it your way. You need some pen and paper, the right environment, and a desire to let go and write. And that might be a bit sticky to start off with, but once you start, it really is fantastic. And you don't have to do it every day if you don't want to. I have my journal by the side of my bed, and most evenings I'll scribble something in it, even if it's only a sentence. Now here is a really important thing, and this goes for all writing. The right environment, right time of day or night. I like to write in the morning in terms of if I'm going to write an article, and I like to journal at night. Where? I love journaling in bed. And I also love journaling on one of the sofas downstairs because it feels all kind of cosy and cushy. What else do you need? The right light, candles, some soft music, what? But make your environment conducive to you wanting to open your heart and scribble. So journaling, how? Freestyle, scribble, journal prompts. Now, here's something interesting about journaling prompts is often if you pick a random journaling prompt, you might feel some resistance. That is perfect. I have lots and lots of journaling prompt books, and I'll come and randomly get one, open them up, and just pick something. And I look at it and I think, I don't want to write about that. And I make myself do it, and it's really fascinating. So we've talked about themes, so you might have a theme journal as well. So freestyle prompts or themes. Now, if you're stuck, ask a question. Doesn't matter what the question is. Take your focus to your heart. Place a hand on your heart. Connect to your muse. I don't know who your muse is. It might be someone sitting on your shoulder. You might see someone called Gertrude living inside of you. Who's that muse? You might, this is no word of a lie. I'm often, because I'm writing in bed, I'll often have my hand on one of my dogs. And it's almost like they're my muse, because that lovely connection, that lovely loving energy. Just put your pen to paper and write for 5 minutes. You could set a timer and you probably will find you want to write more. And then it's looking at it and going, wow, that came up for me. Just write. So your daily journal is your relationship with you and your life. And I love this idea that you write, a bit like that dancing and no one can see you, where you kind of let go and then you've swizzed all over the dance floor, and then you look around and everyone's going, oh, who's that strange woman over there? Seriously, who cares? Let go. So like I said, that the questions are a bit more structured, and it's a good idea to just make yourself do them, because when you start to write, it will flow. And I often say to people, if you're really, really feeling stuck, write down something really mundane. Got up this morning, had a cup of tea, went for a walk, came home, and then what will happen is the flow, the things that are supposed to come out will come out. So go from the mundane to the magical. What will come out of that writing is things that you can blog about. So for example, I have a blog called The Art of Letting Go, and that came from writing in my journal one full moon about, I had loads and loads of stuff on my mind, and I thought, I suddenly remembered it was a full moon, and I thought, like what's going on, what emotions am I holding on to? And I wanted to create a little ritual and let go of stuff. And actually, that's something that I do each full moon. And how you can ever forget it's a full moon when you go out on the terrace and it's bathed in moonlight. But I wanted to share this experience with other people. And so, in my full moon blog, in my full moon journal, I should say, I found, I looked at whatever was going on there, and that enabled me to think about the blog that I wanted to write. So what about you? Have you got a blog idea? Something that's happened recently? Just think about a few things that's happened recently, and without thinking, write down 3 blog ideas. Go, 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 go. Anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if they're good titles. Doesn't matter if they're optimized for the search engines. All we want to do is get some blog ideas out of your head. So what are they? The next question that I want to ask is, what do you want to create? What's that vision for your life and your business? What seeds are you watering? So I think creation is about envisioning. It's about thinking about where you want to go. And I think that if you can't see it, and when I say see, that might be feel, sense, know, might be something that you hear. Not everybody is visual. But if you can't see it, then you can't create it. And you can see it by writing in your journal. So it's time to start thinking about getting those ideas out of your head. What do you want to create? Now, Covey always talks about, think of the end in mind, the outcome. So we're going on a journey. We're here and we don't know what's going to happen over here, and we certainly don't know what's going to happen in the middle. But if we think about that end point, so what do we want? Do we want to be more visible? Do we want to be seen as an expert? Do we want content for a book? Do we want to blog our book? Do we want to do some kind of attraction marketing? What do you want to create? What is it that's over there that's in your vision? So for me, it's all about writing to heal. Whether that is through writing therapy, writing blogs or books or running courses or whatever, that's my end point. For me, it's about visibility and being seen as the expert. And I want to create this community of people who are writing to heal and then writing to heal the world. So I have that vision. And I often sit scribbling in my journal. I've always got far too many book ideas. I really do have to stop myself. But I get ideas for different exercises and different things that I can add to my course and stuff like that, and all sorts of things. So For me, that's my vision. My vision is that community. So go to your journal and write down these questions. What is it that you want to create? What gives your life purpose and meaning? For me, it's always been about writing as a way of healing. So thinking about your blog ideas, how could you start today with just one blog? Now, it might be that you already blog. It might be that you already blog and you're not really happy with the content you're putting out. Maybe you've never blogged and it's time to start. So what's that one blog that you are going to write that fits with the vision that you want for your life and your business? What is that blog? And when you think about that one blog, think about that outcome. So what do you want your blogs to become? Course, book, ebook, what? Raise your visibility, become an expert. What is it? So what can it become? Now, I do everything with repurposing in mind. So when I'm writing my blogs now, I've got a third Writing to Heal book planned. So when I write blogs, I've got an outline already made. There's no way I'm going to sit and write that book right here, right now. But what I can do is I can go to that outline, I can look at what's in my journal and I can go, do you know what? I'm going to write that bit because I know that I can use all of that content to eventually become a book. So I've got a vision of what my blogs are going to become. So what if you did this? What if you created that thing? How would you feel? Who would you be when you've done all of these things? So think about that repurposing as well as that very first blog that you're going to write. So let's break this down and start with starting the month well. So if you started the month well with setting your goals, thinking about your desires, intentions, and envisioning what you want in your journal, and the start of a month or a new moon or a new journal is always a good time to assess where you are, what you want to create. So step back, review, think. You might have been going on that track over there. And that doesn't mean to say that's the wrong direction. It just might mean that you want to come over this way a bit and then go a little bit forward. So when you stop and review on a monthly basis, you can say to yourself, what needs stopping? For me, I've written loads and loads of books all around the chakras. And I was going that way. And it was like, come back and finish Writing to Heal projects. That is what you said you would do. And it's like, yes, but I like doing those. But for me, it's like, stop that, come back to the Writing to Heal book. So although they fit in really, really nicely, that's where I need to go. So stop that, start this, and think about what needs to change. So I will freely admit I'm immensely creative. I go off track. It's not off track. It's just that I see something and I think, oh, I'd like to create that. And I can create books very, very quickly, very easily. And so I go off on tangents. So that needed to change and I changed it. And I was able to see that when I read my journal. It's like, oh, you've done it again. So it's about pausing and resetting when you greet the month. Focus on how things are going and how they're gone. And do you need to reset? Do you need to make those tweaks? Write about it in your journal. So if you do this monthly check-in, you will get back on track. And for me, it really is through that journaling and reflecting that things come up that I have been too afraid to confess to. And now I've confessed to everybody. So the monthly check-in is a great place, put that stake in the ground. Now, I always think that if you're anything like me, what happens in your journal is you get these great ideas and these big pictures, and it can become very, very overwhelming. So if I'm going to change the world, what I need to come down and go is, well, how do I do that in little baby bite-sized pieces? So imagine that you have a bar of chocolate. I think this one's in chunks. I've never had this one before, but I'm imagining it's in chunks. Just I mean, one hopes that you wouldn't get the whole bar and scoff it in one go. I certainly wouldn't, but if you do things just a chunk at a time, and then eventually you've eaten your whole bar of chocolate. But just take a small block of what you have to do and review it on a monthly basis. And think about the actions you've got to take. It's better to take one good action than have a to-do list that goes over 10 pages and you don't do anything. So ask monthly, what's my big life goal and dream? Where am I? What do I want? You can do, a wonderful perfect day exercise where you just write everything as if it were already true. Of course, you've got to take action. Expectations and feelings. What do you want to create? And this is a great thing. What does my future self know? Now, this is a great question to write in your journal. Dear future self, can you tell me? Or not can you? Dear future self, tell me. Write that question down. Stick the journal under your pillow and sleep in it. And in the morning, ask your future self to tell you the answer. They are very wise. My future self is in the most beautiful house. I can see it clearly. I can see the sofa. I can see the land outside. I can see the fireplace, everything. And she always invites me in for a very nice cup of tea and biscuits and sometimes cake. And we discuss what's going on. Now, I do, as you can tell, have a very fertile imagination. But I tell you, I have learned some powerful things by doing that. So when you've done that reset, thinking about where you are, what you want to create, where you're going, what could you write about that expresses this? How could you write about your reset that delivers value to other people, that demonstrates who you are, raises your visibility, and shows others who you are and what you do? So on a monthly basis, go through all of those things and reassess where you are and then think, how do I share that with other people so that they learn as well? Let's now talk about purpose. So what do you want to create that helps you and your clients create meaning? How do we make meaning? So purpose is about finding and making meaning. So I've asked you before, that what's that vision? What's that end goal? Do you want to be an expert about visibility, seen as a storyteller who can be vulnerable? We don't want to be too vulnerable all the time. For me, it'd be raising awareness around Writing to Heal and the Healing Book Project, creating conversations, engagement, and always content for a book, and of course, always. It's, how can I take what I've already got and make it better and add more things in, change things around. So when you're thinking about purpose, so everything I'm doing is about this Writing to Heal, and we're exploring emotions. So what happened last weekend is I went out for lunch with my mum, didn't take a credit card, had my phone switched off. We got to a restaurant. It was actually really, really bad service. And they just, read a QR code to get your menu. It was quite incredible, and it rivaled me. And so what came up for me was some anger, which was a gift. It was, and I won't say I was angry at anyone. I was just angry at me because I was unprepared. I was unprepared for bad service and horrible food and QR codes. So this was a real gift for me. And it sparked a blog called What Needs Healing and Why Now? And so in this blog, I think this is this week's blog, February the 15th. It's about the story. How does it relate to what I do? So for me, it's a story for the course, content for the course. It's content for a book because it's talking about how these emotions could come up and get you at any time, even when you think you have dealt with them. And that's really powerful because you might be, for me, it's like talking a bit about healing and using writing, but you bring that story in. The story is in my journal and it's certainly still fresh in my head. So think about that, what you want to create that's going to bring that purpose in, and brainstorm your blog ideas. So here's some ideas for you. You can create guides, list posts. So there you are, 3 brilliant ways to express your anger and ignite your passion. How-tos and problem solving. Now, all of those lend themselves to becoming something else, like ebooks, courses, and full books. So, if you've got that as an end goal, all of these different kinds of blog posts will support you creating some other content at the end of it. So when you write a blog, which you've been inspired from your journal, think about what they can become. So when you've written a blog, come back to the journal and explore. So you could take little snippets. So if we're writing about anger and suppressed emotions, I would come to my journal and I would write that little snippet down and I would just start exploring. And then from there, I'd come back and write a post. I might do a video. I really ought to be doing more reels. So, I'm going to do some reels. But taking that stuff, like I said, it could become ebooks, books, parts of chapters, course content, and all sorts of things. But it's taking the story, turning it into a blog, and then coming back and saying, what else can I do with it? And exploring in your journal. So now it's your turn. What kind of ideas can you do? A guide. I'll tell you a funny story. I was challenged once to write a guide, and I thought, I don't know what to write about. And it was not long after I'd left my husband. And so I wrote The Conscious Woman's Guide to Leaving Her Husband and Getting a Life. And it grew and it grew and it became a book. I've since unpublished it, and one day I might get it back out and maybe republish it again. But I wrote a book based on what was going to be a long blog post. So what can these things that you journal about and then blog about, what can they become? So really, really dream big. Always repurpose. And sometimes you can write something that doesn't fit in with any way, you just felt like doing it. You've seen something in your journal, just go for it, do it. So get those ideas out. What guides, lists, how-tos, what kind of blogs could you write? So let's take a look at some weekly magic. So on a Sunday night, you could start with something that I call a declutter and dump. In your journal, just get it all out. Anything. Things you want to let go of, any ideas, inspiration, anything. And always ask that question, what do I want to create this week? So we've thought about, the big picture when we do the monthly stuff, but what do we want to create this week? Remember the chunks. Reflect on how you'd like your week to be. And then scribble 10 juicy blog ideas that will bring some fun and sparkle to your life. So if you do that every week, you'll end up with the most massive list. You won't do them all, but you've got those ideas. And when you flick back through your journal, it's like, oh, that was a good idea. I can write that now. Reflect in your journal. So go back over the previous week and go, what did I learn? How can I use last week's learning to help me write a blog this week? And how do you link it to what you do and that end picture? So, for example, I wanted to write something about inner bullying and self-talk for a future book. And I wanted that content for a course where we talk about self-talk. And I was dreaming, and when I woke up from my dream, I had to remember 3 things: red hair, ringworm, and the paisley dress. Honestly, it was one of the most intense journaling sessions I had. And it was all about me being bullied, because I used to have red hair, so this is natural, but I was naturally red. In school, I had ringworm and I was tortured by other people. And my mum made me a beautiful paisley dress, and someone asked to try it on and wouldn't give it back. I had to go home. How she squeezed into it, I don't know, but I had to go. I was a little skinny thing. I had to go home in someone else's school dress. My mother sent me back and really gave me a telling off. But they were just 3 instances of being bullied, and what came out was quite intense. And I used that as an inspiration for a blog post. So, inspiration comes from anywhere. And I could write, so in that article I've written about the red hair, but I can pick all of those other things and repurpose this blog to become other blogs about self-talk and low self-worth and things like that. So, it's not just one thing. So 10 juicy ideas, go for it. Let your imagination go free, anything, any part of your life. Just get all those ideas, but always bring them back to your purpose. So daily magic is just about getting into good habits. So sometimes I journal in the morning, mostly I journal at night, and just think about, your goals and what you want to create, but get into the habit of doing it. Now, I did say that, you don't have to journal every day, but I do try to do at least a sentence. When you're first starting, I think it's a good idea to get into that habit. Connect to your muse, follow your breath, write. Start with the mundane, move to the magical. You could do an affirmation. You can use oracle cards. There's all kinds of things that are going to inspire you in the moment. Or you can pick one of your blog ideas and play with it. See what happens. So talking about inspiration, I get these emails off Grammarly, and it told me that since April 2015, I have, and actually it wasn't that I'd written that many words, because that's a lot, but they had checked that many words. And it inspired me to think about all of those words that I have written and I've never published, but how they've healed me and how that's inspired me to write so many books. So like I say, inspiration comes from anywhere, and I could easily link that to the work that I do. So always think about how you add value. So in the blog about, why this healing and why now, I've got some healing questions. So that's for people to go off and journal and see what comes up for them. And I would highly recommend that if you're going to ask people questions, you write the answers, you explore those yourself, because guess what you can do? You can write about those responses and create more blogs. So, it's a win-win. Don't forget your call to action. So through all the work I've got an ebook called The Healing Power of Journaling, and people can download that at the end of my articles. And I have a number of different ebooks that people can subscribe to. So, you can create an ebook from your journal. So 30-day action plan. Write every day about something. Write about your challenges, the choices you made, the lessons that you learned, the gifts that came from it, morals and messages, outcomes. And then say to yourself, how can I write a blog about this? And how can I inspire someone else with my stories? And, you might be feeling some resistance, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. And I bet you at the end of 30 days, if you do that every single day for 30 days, imagine you've got 30 blogs, that's 30 weeks of content. That could be 30,000 words for a book. Yeah, that is absolutely possible. Reflecting. So reflecting is really where we get the growth, the change. So it's just a place to go back through your journal and reflect on what's been going on, what you've already written. And it might be that you start to learn a lot, obviously you will learn a lot more about you, the lessons that life is teaching you. And then when you identify those important things, you can say, well, how am I going to use them? Because they are a source of inspiration. I really enjoy going and digging out old journals and reading them through and going, oh, that's quite an interesting model. I can use that in such and such. And it's a great way of understanding your thought processes. So the reason we write reflectively is we can understand the things that have happened, why they've happened. We can align any future actions we take to our values. We can build stronger boundaries, find that confidence, that clarity. And we can look at those lessons and use those lessons to support other people. And we can just get all that stuff out of our head. We looked at it and it's going to trigger something else. And that's good because it continues the learning and the healing, and it continues giving you juicy content. So reflection really is a response to stuff that's going on. And what happens with our mind is when we go back through the journal and we look at that stuff, our mind searches for evidence, analyzes it, makes meaning and sense. The human mind is all about patterns and pictures and making connections. And that's what you want to have happen when people read your blog. So when you've got that stuff out in your journal and you've got that clarity, and then you've written it as a blog post and it makes a lot more sense, you want to connect emotionally to other people and it helps them to make sense. So think about something that has happened recently. Could have been good, bad, indifferent, who knows. Think about what you do differently next time. Consider it from your perspective and then consider it from someone else's perspective. And then think, how do I share that lesson? So here's something that you can try. Recall an event and write it down very descriptively. Really bring the details alive. What happened, who was involved. And then reflect. Interpret the event. Look at it from a kind of a stand back picture. What was most interesting? What was relevant? What was helpful? How can you explain what happened if you were explaining it to someone else as a learning point? And how is this similar or different to other experiences that you've had? What have I learned? How can I apply it in the future? So your action plan is to do that. Get those, describe, interpret, whatever, when you see that stuff, and think about the thoughts you have when you immediately read that journal entry, or perhaps when you reflect on it, when you've got more emotional distance later on. Is there something that you would do differently? What are the takeaways? What can you teach other people? So go and find something you've written, reread it, let your mind wander, write, let that flow come, and then write a blog. And when you've done that, reflect on the blog. Remember, everything's about repurposing. Bring that old blog up to date with new stories, experiences, and perspectives. And that really means that all the content that you create, you can repurpose it and repurpose it and repurpose it, and your journal will help you to do that. So that's your action plan in terms of the reflecting piece. And that's it. And you can connect with me in all kinds of places. Mostly you can find me on dalediley.com, but you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram. I have courses, programs, books and journals, and I'd love for you to get in touch. So please do come and connect with me, and let's see where we can take that writing journey.